The Galactic Council once exiled humanity, laughing as Earth burned alone. Now, centuries later, unknown fleets are reshaping the stars, and someone realizes too late that the exiles didn't vanish. They evolved. And they've returned with something far greater than vengeance. The humans? Chancellor Veer chuckled, reclining in his throne of flowing mercury. They were banished 300 years ago. He wasn't concerned. The council never was. They barely survived their own collapse, scoffed General Valve. No allies, no tech, nothing but ash and nostalgia. A soft chuckle rippled through the chamber, until the stars started changing. It began as a whisper, trading routes realigned, supply chains disrupted without violence, empires bowing out of treaties for reasons they wouldn't explain. Then came the map. Every month, more sectors turned gray. Unclaimed. Unreachable. Unwilling. And behind each shift, no declaration, no threat, just a symbol, a vertical line wrapped in thorns, unknown to the council, but familiar to the historians. Old Earth insignia, muttered Archivist Vel. It was used by rebel ships during the exile. Impossible. Vire snapped. They were isolated, tracked, watched. No, Vel said, almost whispering now. They disappeared. AVD Spike. A fleet emerged from fold space near the Telcor belt. 60 ships. No transponders. No known. Drive signatures. No negotiation. They didn't fire. They simply arrived, and every mining colony in that belt submitted without a shot. Later, those same colonies issued a joint transmission. The forgotten have returned. We follow the ones who built in exile. Chancellor Veer stood in silence as system after system stopped responding. Deploy the diplomat caste, he growled. We'll remind them who rules this galaxy. But no one responded, because every system that submitted didn't surrender out of fear. They submitted out of recognition. The humans hadn't returned as refugees. They had returned as architects. In the silence of banishment, they hadn't begged for re-entry. They had rewritten the rules. Sir, came the voice of a young scout commander. Our outpost on Kethros Prime has been absorbed. Vire gritted his teeth. By force? No, by choice. They said they remembered the black ships. That phrase echoed. And across the chamber. The oldest member, Krellin of the Fast, shivered. I remember that name, he said, voice hollow. In the early days of exile, one Terran warlord vanished with 4 ships. No engines, no power. Just disappeared. And? He said he would return when the galaxy forgot their cruelty. A final signal lit the chamber's main screen. Terran woman in uniform. Calm, not triumphant. Not angry. Just tired. We remember the exile. We remember the silence. We built where you would not look. And now, without banners, we rule. The screen dimmed. And beneath it, a phrase etched in fading white. They thought we died. We were just building. And that was before Earth even responded. The capital moon of Avantar was supposed to be impenetrable. 12 orbital defense rings. Anti-fold fields. A dedicated fleet garrison. 60 billion citizens under one of the galaxy's oldest flags, and yet it felt fragile now. Not because of invasion, but because silence had become more dangerous than war. Hi. Consular paced the chamber floor while the crisis feed updated in real time behind him. 48 systems lost contact within the last 2 cycles. No distress calls, no debris. No sign of resistance. Just gone. Every diplomatic probe we've sent has either been ignored or absorbed, said Minister Thray. The sectors aren't fighting back. They're vanishing from our registry as if they were never part of us. And the symbol? Errol asked. One of the aides dimmed the lights and projected it across the war room floor. The vertical line wrapped in thorns. Crude, but unmistakable. Old Earth. From the final exile broadcasts before the FAR, the Council pulled the plug on their network centuries ago. Who brought it back? Errol whispered. They never let it go, said General Sarn. They just carried it underground. AVD spike. The room lights glitched only for a fraction of a second, but everyone flinched. Pull up the surveillance footage from the Obari drift, Errol barked. That was our last confirmed contact point before we lost systems 908 through 914. Screen stuttered, then flickered to life. First, static, then a planetary sky, one of their relay moons, drifting quietly above a populated sector. Then, like a shadow pulling itself out of space, something massive appeared. A ship. No weapons deployed. No energy signature the sensors could understand. No sound. Just presence. One Terran. Vessel. It hovered in orbit for 2 minutes. Then folded. And every trace of the Empire's authority on that planet vanished with it. The flags. The history banks. The cultural registry. The people didn't resist. They just turned inward and refused to acknowledge the Empire had ever ruled them. They're not invading, Sarn whispered. They're correcting, Thray added. Errol turned sharply. Then we issue a universal override. We remind the colonies who we are. They don't remember, Thray said hollowly. They've chosen not to. A second feed flickered on from a diplomatic envoy that had reached Sector 407. The envoys. Leader, a seasoned ambassador named Velas, stood before a crowd of colonists. You must understand, he said, voice steady but desperate. The Empire has protected this system for over 200 years. We offer unity, security, purpose. No one responded. One of the colonists, a boy no older than 12, raised his hand and asked, "What's an empire?" Silence, then a voice. From the back, "We only know the builders." The feed ended. The room darkened again. This time, not by accident. The lights didn't fail. They were cut, and the chamber filled with a low, barely audible hum. A message was playing on a separate channel. No screen. Just sound. A woman's voice. Terran accent. Calm. Slow. You cast us out, banished. U.S. to silence. You thought we'd vanish. We became architects instead. You built empires to control. We built one to endure. Errol snapped his fingers. Shut it off. No response. The sound continued. We do not invade. We invite. We do not force. We remember. And then, you ruled with presence. Now we rule with memory. The hum stopped. The lights returned, but something deeper had dimmed. They weren't fighting a rebellion. They were standing in the shadow of something that had grown too large to stop and too patient to reveal itself until it had already won. General. Sarn leaned forward, studying the table display. We need to strike back, hard. Show them we still hold power. With what? Thrace snapped. Every command we give gets rerouted. Entire fleets have gone dark. The systems themselves are turning away from us, not with weapons, but with indifference. Another aide ran into the room. Sir, the Academy planets just rescinded allegiance. All of them, simultaneously. They taught the Empire, Thray whispered. Not anymore, the aide said. They just renamed themselves. Errol stared at him. Renamed as what? The answer came slow, painful. The Terran Ark. Silence again. This time not from technology. But from dread. That name had appeared in only one record. A final exile message from the last surviving Earth Prime Minister before going dark. His closing words were simple. We leave not in defeat, but to become something you can't imagine. And now they had, back in the war chamber, the map zoomed out. More systems flickered to gray dot, then black dot, then nothing. Earl looked down at his hands. They didn't bring warships, he murmured. They brought erasers. No, Thray said. They brought ideas, and the galaxy chose them over us. The room shook suddenly, but not from impact. The sound system buzzed. Back to life. Another voice. Older, male, rough with time. To those who still cling to control. We were banished and left to die. We built in the dark. We mastered silence, and now we offer no throne, just a truth. Your rule was loud. Ours. Doesn't need to be heard to be felt. The message ended. A final transmission appeared. No coordinates. Just a sentence. The galaxy was never yours. It just hadn't remembered who built it yet. General Sarm stood. Then what do we do? Errol didn't answer, because he finally understood. There was nothing left to rule. Only places that had moved on. And no matter how loud they shouted. Humanity had already finished building. The Sunblade. Ascendant emerged from fold space over the Varastri cluster, escorted by 10 of the Council's finest warships. This was supposed to be a show of force. Reclamation. A reminder. The system had been theirs for over 2 centuries until it blinked off. Every Empire-linked channel 3 days ago. No declaration. No warning. Just one message across all open broadcasts. We remember who never left us. Admiral Kryn stood rigid on the bridge, his armor gleaming in the cold light of the stars. Our surface comms live? His comms officer nodded, eyes fixed on the data streams. Local networks open. No encryption. They're expecting us. Expecting. Kryn repeated, voice flat, like hosts awaiting guests. The fleet moved in formation, hovering just outside planetary orbit. The planet below spun peacefully. Lights dotted its surface in elegant constellations. There were no shields. Number. Defense grids. Just music. Old Earth frequencies, rich, slow, haunting, echoed from orbital beacons. Patch me through, Kryn said. A voice answered almost instantly. Human? Female? Young? Hello, Admiral. Would you like to come down? You're aware. You're in violation of 17 interstellar codes, Kryn replied. The voice didn't flinch. Which ones? He hesitated. Codes established by your empire. The rightful government of this sector. We didn't vote for them. Silence on the bridge. Then laughter on the channel. Not mocking. Just calm. You never asked us, Admiral. You just came. He leaned forward. Return control to the Council now, and we can avoid escalation. Escalation? She echoed. You don't understand. There's nothing left to escalate. You're not under attack, Admiral. You're being forgotten. AVD spike. Kryn turned sharply to his officer. Are surface weapons online? None detected. No signals. But what? The officer's eyes twitched. The citizens aren't evacuating. They're gathering. Town by town, watching us. There. Not afraid, someone said. Kryn's jaw tightened. Then we remind them. He gave the order. Low-altitude intimidation. Pass. Fast. Loud. The fleet dropped low. But as they skimmed across the stratosphere, their sensors picked up something unexpected. On rooftops, in fields, in cities, even in deserts. Every person was standing. Still. Not hiding. Looking up, holding small black banners. Each one bearing the same mark. That vertical line wrapped in thorns. Kryn gritted his teeth. They're taunting us. No, his communications officer whispered. They're honoring something. Get me visuals. The screens filled with faces. Children. Elders. Mechanics. Farmers. Students. Every species. Every. Background. Each one looking skyward, not to resist, but to remember. A moment later, a signal ballooned in system. A single Terran ship. Not large, not armed. A transport class. Vessel. It flew above the crowd at low altitude, dropping no weapons, just small packets of food, medical supplies, tools. We don't need conquest. Earlier voice said again, we brought infrastructure. The people followed us because we showed up when you stopped looking. Kryn stared, mouth dry. We built the comms towers you let rot. We healed their wounded. We listened when they spoke. The Terran ship finished its pass and slowly turned back toward the stars. No escort. No urgency. Just quiet departure. Admiral. His second in command said slowly, we can't force them back. Then we land. We take command by ground. Another officer interjected, almost trembling. If we try to land, they'll just walk away. What? They've already abandoned every city tied to our name. They don't need to fight. They just move on. Kryn's hands trembled at his sides. It wasn't just defiance. It was detachment. As if the people had already decided what mattered and the Empire wasn't part of it. The young woman's voice returned one last time. You didn't lose the galaxy. It simply grew tired of pretending you ruled it. We didn't take anything from you. We gave people a choice, and they stopped choosing you. You built control. We built trust. Now tell me, what lasts longer? The transmission ended. The Terran ship vanished into fold space, trailing silence behind it. And as Kryn watched the planet below, no chaos, no fire, just steady, unstoppable migration. He realized what he was looking at wasn't surrender. It was freedom. They weren't losing the war. There was no war. Just a galaxy turning away, one system at a time. The final council assembly convened in a shadow of itself. 3. Chambers once filled with delegates from 6,000 worlds now echoed with silence. Where once ambassadors shouted over one another, now only 6 remained. The rest had stopped showing up. Not because they were dead, because they no longer remembered why they were supposed to care. Chancellor. Errol adjusted his faded crimson sash and stared out the curved glass of the high tower. Below him, capital ships floated. Like fossils, relics of a command no one obeyed anymore. The Terran presence was spreading without fleets. No invasions. No demands. Just arrival. And every time they came, the people chose them. It wasn't even political. It was practical. A message flashed across the main display. System 2131 transition confirmed. Beneath it, a new designation appeared. Terran stewardship enacted. Counselor Thray gripped the edge of the table. They're doing it planet by planet. They don't even have to speak to us. They're just cleaning up. Then we speak. To them, Errol said finally, we force a response. Make them acknowledge us. How? We remind them of what we gave this galaxy. Stability, industry, unity. They gave it bread, medicine, and dignity. Errol's hand slammed down. They're using sentiment. We'll use scale. Within hours, the Council transmitted a galaxy-wide message across every accessible band. Not just a transmission. A spectacle. A fleet of 300 ships formed above the former capital of Sornexus Prime. Cameras mounted to every vessel. Artificial. Starlight bathed the display in gold. Errol stood at the forefront of it, backed by the banners of every species once loyal to the Council, and with rehearsed authority, he began. This galaxy was born in chaos. We brought order. We forged paths between stars. We protected the weak, and now you turn your eyes to the ones we cast out. He raised his voice. To humanity, wherever you hide, you rule nothing. You deserve no throne. This galaxy remembers. What you were, lost, violent, unwanted, a pause. Answer us. Or admit your silence is surrender. The transmission ended, and the galaxy waited. Minutes. Hours. Then something appeared, not from Earth. But from everywhere else. Personal messages. Recordings. Citizen broadcasts from the outer rim to the oldest colonies. People speaking, not to the Council, but to the Terrans. Thank you for repairing our gravity net. They taught my son how to use old tech to filter water. We haven't seen a single Earth soldier, just volunteers. My city voted. We're staying Terran. None of it was military. All of it was final. Kryn stood at the edge of the observation deck, watching the ceremonial fleet break formation, one ship at a time. The captains weren't defecting. They were leaving. No rebellion. No betrayal. Just fatigue. They didn't see value in pretending the Council's words meant anything. A VD spike. A final transmission arrived. From Earth. It was not loud. It wasn't even live. It was a clip. Grainy. Centuries old. A woman unknown rank, unknown origin spoke from a dusty outpost, eyes red with wind and grief. They sent us here to vanish. We built homes. Then we built roads. Then we built each other. If they remember us one day, fine. But we're done asking for space. We'll just grow until it's ours. The recording ended. Nothing followed. No threats. No fleets. Just a quiet reply that had already been answered by 1,000 systems. They weren't coming back to negotiate. They'd outgrown the need. The Council's power didn't end in a battle. It ended in irrelevance. Errol sat down, his hands trembling. What do we do now? Thray's voice was barely a whisper. We retire. To where? To wherever they'll let us remember. The Council flag was lowered 2 cycles. Later. Not torn down. Not burned. Just folded. And placed in a museum curated by Terran historians. Plaque read. Asterisk. Once rulers. Now remembered. Banished. They laughed. Forgotten. They fell. Asterisk. Back on Earth. No celebration. Followed. No announcement. No empire declared. Just one more task completed. One more silence kept. And a single line added to the Terran ledger. We never returned. We simply stopped waiting to be asked.